In the far reaches of the Andromeda expanse, entire worlds were disappearing. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were reduced to rubble. Their people vanished in the blink of an eye. The galaxy had known war before, but nothing like this. The enemy was called the Vocari, an ancient, merciless species that devoured planets like a storm devours leaves. Systems that once shined with life now drifted as empty husks in the cold black of space. On the surviving planets, fear had become a constant companion. Leaders gathered in secret chambers, their faces pale and eyes hollow. They had tried everything: diplomacy, alliances, even desperate last-minute defenses. Nothing had worked. The Vocari were unstoppable, and so in despair they turned to a distant hope, sending a message across the void, a plea whispered like a prayer, desperate and trembling. Help us. Please. Send someone. Anything. We cannot survive alone. The message traveled light years, cutting through the emptiness of space, carrying the weight of countless lives. On Earth, the signal arrived in the control room of the Terran Coalition, where humans, an upstart species by galactic standards, listened carefully. The room was silent for a long moment. Then voices rose in debate full of concern and calculation. The Vocari are dangerous, said Admiral Rios, standing beside a holographic display of the expanse. We have no treaty with these worlds. Why risk our ships? A scientist shook her head. Because if we do not act, every system out there will fall, and eventually, it could be us. They are not just an alien problem, they are a universal problem. And then Captain Aveline Torres stepped forward. She was young, but her presence carried the weight of countless missions and battles. Her eyes, dark and unwavering, scanned the council. We are the species that survives, she said. Not because we are the strongest, but because we never give up. We adapt, we fight, and we endure. This is our moment. These people need someone to answer their prayers. Let it be us. Her words hung in the air like a promise. Something unspoken stirred in every human present. Humanity had faced extinction countless times in its own history. Plagues, wars, invasions, natural disasters. Time and again, humans had risen. Now their survival instinct was reaching across the stars. The decision was made. A fleet would be sent. The Indomitable, Earth's newest flagship, would lead the mission. Alongside it, dozens of warships, research vessels, and supply ships joined in what would become humanity's boldest venture yet. As the humans prepared, the people of the alien worlds watched their screens in disbelief. They had prayed for angels, beings of calm grace and mercy. What approached was something else entirely. The fleet of humans was enormous, its ships black and angular, bristling with weapons and technology that seemed almost alive. They moved with precision, not elegance. They radiated power and menace. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Captain Torres stood before her crew. They were soldiers, engineers, medics, and scientists, each handpicked for skill and courage. Some were veterans who had seen the death of billions on Earth's battlefields. Some were young, eager to prove themselves. All shared the same understanding. This mission would be unlike any other. Torres turned to them, voice steady but filled with fire. We are not going to these worlds to hold hands. We are not here to negotiate. We are here to ensure survival. They are weak, yes, and desperate. But what awaits them and what awaits us requires more than mercy. It requires strength, ingenuity, and courage beyond anything they have ever imagined. We will be the answer to their prayers, but we will not be angels. The crew understood. They did not need angels. They would be demons, a name whispered in terror and awe, because humanity fought like nothing else in the galaxy. They turned disadvantages into advantages, fear into fuel, and desperation into unstoppable force. And then, the Indomitable leapt into the void. The stars stretched and twisted around it as it traveled faster than any alien could comprehend. Light years fell away beneath its engines, and Earth became a pale dot in the distance. Every member of the crew felt the weight of countless lives depending on them. They were leaving home, leaving comfort, leaving certainty, to answer a call that could cost them everything. As the fleet moved through the black, messages from the alien worlds kept arriving, desperate and pleading. Each one tugged at the human hearts, but also sharpened their resolve. These creatures had prayed for mercy, for protection, for help. Humanity would give them survival. Humanity would give them fury. Humanity would give them everything it had. And more. Captain Torres looked ahead at the unknown, the dark expanse filled with danger, death, and uncertainty. Yet she felt no fear. Only purpose. Only the burning determination that humans carried in their bones since the dawn of their species. To survive, to fight, and to endure. They prayed for angels, she whispered to herself, eyes fixed on the distant lights of the alien worlds. We are something else entirely. We are humanity. And we will not fail. With that, the fleet disappeared into the stars carrying hope, terror, and the promise that the galaxy would soon know the true meaning of human determination. The alien worlds waited in a fragile hope, their fleets scattered, their cities trembling under the shadow of the Vocari. They had sent messages across the void praying for help. They expected angels, beings of calm, shining light, perhaps a gentle hand to guide them through the darkness. What arrived instead was something far different, something that made the stars themselves seem to shiver. The first human ships appeared like shadows stretching across the void. The fleet was immense, black as a starless night, bristling with weapons that glimmered with deadly energy. Their engines roared silently, but the power they carried spoke louder than any sound. To the alien observers, these were not angels, they were demons, massive, unstoppable, and terrifyingly intelligent. Captain Torres stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, her eyes scanning the holographic displays of the alien fleets and their cities. She did not speak of mercy. Mercy had no place here. The Vocari were merciless, and anyone who faced them needed more than kindness. Humanity's way was not soft, it was precise, adaptive, and unyielding. Report, Torres commanded. Lieutenant Miro, her second-in-command, replied, The colonies are under heavy attack. The Vocari ships are already engaging defenses, but they underestimate our fleet. They cannot match our firepower. Torres nodded. Good. Then let them learn quickly what happens when humans answer a call for help. In orbit above the first colony, the humans unleashed their assault. Orbital cannons flared, striking the Vocari warships with pinpoint precision. Entire fleets shattered in seconds, explosions lighting up the void like artificial suns. Drones swarmed down to the planet's surface, securing strategic points, neutralizing threats, and protecting civilians. The aliens below watched in awe and terror. These humans were not graceful saviors. They moved like a storm of calculated destruction, each action purposeful, each strike devastating. Children hid in shelters, mouths open in disbelief, as ships blacker than night carved paths of fire across the sky. When a squad of humans boarded a Vocari dreadnought, the aliens on the ground could only watch. The humans moved like predators, silently, methodically cutting through corridors, disabling systems, and neutralizing soldiers with weapons they had never seen. One human, wielding nothing more than a compact rifle and an instinct for battle, took out a squad of Vocari officers before vanishing into the shadows. The Vocari Supreme Commander's message echoed through the surviving alien fleets. What is this species? They are monsters, they are demons. And the aliens realized it was true. Humanity had come not with mercy, not with gentle protection, but with force, strategy, and fearsome intelligence. The species that had survived countless wars on their homeworlds, that had endured every threat the galaxy had ignored, was now in their system, delivering salvation wrapped in fire. On the surface of one devastated city, a young alien child clutched a tattered doll, staring at the human soldiers who moved past, securing the streets. One of them, a medic, knelt beside the child and handed over a small vial of water and food. The gesture was simple, almost human in its tenderness, but the presence of humanity itself, a force capable of obliterating entire fleets, made it terrifying. They saved us, the child whispered to their parent, but they are monsters. How can monsters save us? Torres received reports from her squads. Casualties were minimal on the human side. The Vocari, skilled and vicious, had underestimated human adaptability. Every ambush, every trap, every defensive maneuver the aliens had feared had been countered with human creativity. Drones swarmed in ways that no AI could predict. Boarding teams Estru. CK at vulnerabilities the Vocari didn't know they had. Humanity's cunning was a weapon as sharp as any sword or cannon. In one daring raid, a small human squad seized the main Vocari communications tower on a key planet. They used it to broadcast warnings to other human forces, turning the enemy's defenses against themselves. The aliens witnessed a strategy they could not comprehend. Humans were unpredictable, dangerous, and unstoppable. After the first wave of attacks, the alien leaders gathered on their remaining secure stations. Their faces were pale, Some whispered in fear, some in awe. "We prayed for angels," one governor said. "And they brought demons." Torres did not hear their words. She was already focused on the next target, planning the next strike, ensuring that every action saved lives while breaking the enemy. Humanity's mission was clear: protect the weak, destroy the dangerous, and do so with unrelenting precision. As the Indomitable and her fleet moved to the next system, explosions flared in the darkness behind them. The Vocari fleets were retreating, but only temporarily. They would strike back, but they could not hope to match humans in creativity, determination, or sheer audacity. The aliens began to understand something profound and terrifying. They had asked for mercy, for salvation, for protection. Humanity had arrived to give them survival, yes, but survival came wrapped in fire, in fury, in a force they could barely comprehend. Humanity did not forgive. Humanity did not hesitate. Humanity adapted. Humanity endured. Captain Torres looked out at the distant stars, her reflection cast across the black hull of her ship. The alien worlds needed help, and they had received it. But the galaxy had also received a warning. Humans were here, and they were not angels. They were demons. The battlefields of the liberated worlds were silent now, but silence did not mean peace. Smoke curled into the sky from shattered cities, and the remains of Vocari warships drifted in orbit like broken teeth. Humanity had saved the aliens, yes, but the cost was heavy. The colonies that had survived were scarred. Their cities flattened in strategic strikes that spared the civilians, but destroyed almost everything else. Captain Torres walked among the survivors, her boots crunching on rubble. Children peeked from the wreckage, eyes wide, mouths open in awe and fear. They had seen humans in battle, and humans were terrifying. They fought with fire in their hearts, precision in their hands, and cunning in their minds. To the aliens, humanity was no angel. It was a force that demanded respect and a little dread. One young alien boy approached her cautiously, clutching a small, torn flag of his homeworld. His voice was barely a whisper. "You saved us, but everything is gone. My city, my family's home, destroyed. Why?" Torres knelt to meet his gaze, her face softening but her eyes remaining firm. "Because war is not mercy," she said simply. "If we had tried to be gentle, the Vocari would have returned. They would have finished what they started. We protect you with strength. That is our mercy." The boy's eyes filled with tears. He did not fully understand, but he sensed the truth. Humans did not fight for glory. Humans fought to survive and to ensure others could live. Their methods were brutal, yes, but effective. Humanity had a way of turning every threat into an opportunity, every disadvantage into strength. Around the world, alien leaders debated what they had witnessed. Some called humans monsters. Others called them heroes. Few could reconcile the two. They had prayed for angels, gentle saviors, beings of mercy and light. Instead, humans had arrived as demons, and yet the galaxy lived because of them. Lieutenant Miro reported to Torres on the damage assessments. Most Vocari positions are destroyed. Casualties are high, but civilian loss is minimal. We saved the majority, Torres nodded. Good, but remember, victory is not a celebration. It is responsibility. Every life saved is a debt we carry. Every city rebuilt is a promise we make. Humanity's way is harsh, but it is the only way that works. In the weeks that followed, humans worked tirelessly. Engineers rebuilt vital infrastructure. Medics treated the wounded, and soldiers patrolled the borders to prevent any return of the Vocari. Each human knew that saving the weak required more than fighting. It required endurance, care, and ruthless efficiency. Yet the aliens could not ignore the fear. Everywhere humans went, they left a trail of awe and unease. They were saviors, yes, but saviors who could obliterate entire fleets without hesitation. They carried fire, destruction, and strategy with them like shadows. On one small world, an alien elder approached Torres. "Your species is frightening," he said, voice shaking. "You save us, yet you destroy so much. How do we thank you without fearing you?" Torres looked at him steadily. "We do not seek thanks. We do not seek fear. We seek survival. For you, for your people, and for the galaxy. We are not angels. We are humans. And humans survive. That is all that matters." Even among her crew, the weight of their actions pressed heavily. Some soldiers had been trained for battle, yet seeing the devastation firsthand still left scars. Yet they understood their duty. Each strike, each calculated destruction, each life-risking mission was a choice made for survival. Humanity had learned long ago that hesitation could mean extinction. They could not afford it now either. Across the colonies, the alien population began to adjust to this new reality. Humans were protectors, yes, but their protection was different from anything the galaxy had known. It was not gentle or comforting. It was raw, unyielding, and terrifyingly effective. Survivors whispered stories of the humans' ferocity, their ability to turn impossible situations into victories, their willingness to risk everything, their cleverness that seemed almost supernatural. Yet Torres knew this was only the beginning. The Vocari would not vanish quietly. They would regroup, they would strike back, and the humans' mission would grow even more dangerous. Every victory carried a cost, and humanity's way was not without sacrifice. That night, Torres stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, staring at the black stars beyond. The alien worlds were safe for now, but safety was fragile. She thought of the boy who had asked why humans destroyed his city. She thought of every life lost, every building flattened, every enemy struck down. Humanity's mercy was wrapped in strength and fury, and the galaxy needed to understand that balance. They prayed for angels, she whispered into the void. We came, but we are something else, something they will never forget. And we will endure no matter what comes next. The stars shone cold and distant, but the humans' fire burned brighter. The galaxy had received a warning and a promise. When humans answered a call for help, they did so fully. Not gently, not lightly, but with all the cunning, courage, and fury that survival had taught them across the millennia. The galaxy held its breath. For weeks, the liberated colonies had begun to recover under the watchful presence of humanity. Humans repaired infrastructure, secured the planets, and trained the alien populations to defend themselves. But the threat of the Vocari had not ended. They were patient, cunning, and cruel. The enemy studied the humans, trying to find weaknesses in their tactics. But humanity was unlike anything the Vocari had ever faced. The first wave of retaliation struck suddenly. Hidden fleets emerged from nebulae and asteroid fields, bombarding lightly defended outposts. Mines buried in orbit exploded beneath unsuspecting supply ships. The Vocari had learned one thing. Humans were fast, but they could be outmaneuvered. Captain Torres received the reports calmly on the bridge of the Indomitable. Her crew was tense but focused. We expected them to fight back, she said. This is exactly what we wanted, to draw them out, to learn their patterns, to prepare for every possibility. Ready the countermeasures, deploy interceptors. We hit back hard and fast. Lieutenant Miro, standing beside her, nodded. Enemy fleets are converging on 3 colonies simultaneously. Casualties predicted if we delay. Torres' gaze was unwavering. Then we do not delay. Humans do not wait for the storm to pass. We make the storm obey us. The humans struck back with precision that was almost artistic. Fleets maneuvered in patterns the Vocari could not predict. Orbital cannons targeted enemy command ships first, dismantling fleets piece by piece. Interceptors swarmed mines before they could detonate, often using the debris as weapons against the Vocari. Boarding teams infiltrated enemy vessels, turning their own technology against them. The alien populations watched in awe. Humans were saviors, yes, but they were terrifying in their efficiency. Where the Vocari had expected hesitation, they found only calculated fury. Where the enemy had expected fear, they found cunning strategy. Every action was designed to protect the weak while destroying the strong, and the galaxy had never seen anything like it. On one ravaged planet, a young alien soldier asked a human lieutenant, "Why are you willing to risk your life so easily? You could retreat. You could stay safe." The human smiled faintly, wiping blood from a scratched cheek. "Because if we do not fight here, there will be nowhere safe for anyone. Fear keeps the weak alive. Courage keeps everyone alive. And we, humans, never quit." The Vocari learned this the hard way. Entire ambushes collapsed in minutes as humans anticipated every move. Ships thought to be traps became bait, drawing the Vocari into devastating counterattacks. Human ingenuity turned disadvantage into lethal advantages. In one daring maneuver, a small squadron of human fighters used the wreckage of a destroyed planet to hide their approach, striking the Vocari homeworld's orbital defenses without warning. Alien observers whispered stories of humans moving like shadows across the stars, striking where they were least expected, disappearing before retaliation could begin. They called them demons. Others called them heroes. Most simply called them unstoppable. Even within the human ranks, the intensity was relentless. No one rested until the last enemy threat in a system was neutralized. Every victory was hard-won, every maneuver a calculated risk. Casualties were minimal, but the emotional toll was immense. They carried the weight of entire civilizations on their shoulders, knowing failure was not an option. Captain Torres oversaw a particularly tense engagement near a gas giant. The Volcari had laid a massive trap, swarms of fighters hidden in the planet's stormy atmosphere, ready to ambush the humans' relief convoy. Torres smiled faintly as she watched the readouts. "They think they can predict us," she said quietly. "But humans do not follow patterns. Humans make the patterns." Within minutes, the ambush collapsed. Human pilots weaved through the storms, destroying enemy ships while protecting every civilian transport. Drones deployed to disable planetary artillery, using electromagnetic pulses to turn enemy cannons against themselves. Humanity's victory was total, and yet the aliens could only stare in stunned silence. When the battle ended, the Volcari fleets retreated into uncharted space, bruised and humiliated. They had learned something new and terrifying. Humans adapted faster than they could anticipate. They fought not just with weapons, but with brains, creativity, and an unbreakable will. The liberated aliens gathered on their homeworlds, watching the humans depart to the next system. Fear and gratitude warred in their hearts. These beings had saved them, yes, but the price of their salvation was awe and terror combined. They had expected angels. Instead, humanity had arrived like a storm, destructive, precise, and unstoppable. Captain Torres looked out at the black expanse of space, her reflection mirrored in the windows of the bridge. She thought of the planets they had saved, of the lives still in danger, and of the relentless Volcari lurking beyond. The galaxy had learned one truth today. Humans did not fight to survive. They fought to dominate, to protect, to endure. And when humans fought, nothing, not even the most cunning enemy, could stand in their way. "They strike at us again," she murmured to Miro. "Good. Let them try. Every attack makes us stronger. Every threat teaches us. Humanity does not fear the storm. We become the storm." And with that, the Indomitable leapt toward the next system, leaving a trail of hope, awe, and terror behind. Humanity had answered the call, and the Volcari were learning a dangerous lesson. No matter how cruel, cunning, or ancient, no enemy could withstand the demons of Earth. The war had reached a breaking point. Hundreds of human ships faced the full might of the Volcari near their homeworld. The void was alive with the hum of engines, the glow of energy shields, and the deadly arcs of plasma fire. Entire fleets clashed like storms made flesh, and the galaxy watched as humans fought not as soldiers, but as a force of nature. Captain Torres stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, eyes scanning every display, every sensor feed. The Volcari were cunning, setting traps in orbit, deploying mines, and using the planet's magnetic storms to hide their movements. But humans were relentless, adapting faster than the enemy could calculate. Every threat became an opportunity. Every disadvantage a weapon. "Weapons charged," Torres said, her voice calm but filled with authority. "Every strike counts. We are not just fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for those who cannot fight." "Make it precise. Make it count," Lieutenant Miro responded. "Enemy formations are spreading out to divide us. They want to isolate our squadrons." Torres' lips curved into a slight smile. "Let them try. Humans fight as one, but we thrive in chaos. Adapt, anticipate, and strike. That is how we survive." The first wave of human assault hit with surgical precision. Orbital cannons targeted Volcari command ships, disabling communication channels and breaking fleet coordination. Fighter squadrons swooped through asteroid belts and magnetic storms, striking enemy vessels before vanishing into the darkness. Boarding teams infiltrated heavily armed ships, dismantling weapons and systems from within. The Volcari had never faced an opponent like this. Their strategies, honed over centuries, were no match for humans' adaptability. Entire ambushes collapsed in minutes, leaving the alien commanders frantic and confused. On the surface, alien civilians watched the sky ignite with fire and energy. The humans did not fight gently. They fought like demons. Cities that had been evacuated watched silently as human ships tore through enemy fleets above. There was no hesitation, no pause, only relentless action. Yet, strangely, the humans also saved lives wherever they could, protecting the weak even in the midst of chaos. In the midst of the battle, Captain Torres led an elite boarding team onto the largest Volcari warship, the command station of the fleet. The corridors were alive with danger. Vakari soldiers lunged from shadows, weapons blazing, but the humans moved faster, smarter, and deadlier. Every corner, every doorway, every ventilation shaft became an advantage in human hands. Torres faced the Vakari Supreme Commander in the heart of the warship. Towering and terrifying, the creature had expected fear from humans. It received only focus. They clashed, blade against claw, rifle against energy shield, and Torres' tactical brilliance outmatched brute force. Every move anticipated the enemy's strike, turning their strength into weakness. Finally, with one decisive maneuver, Torres disabled the command console and immobilized the Supreme Commander. The creature roared in fury, realizing its defeat. Around them, the warship systems fell silent as humans secured control. The Vakari fleet, leaderless and scattered, began a hasty retreat. The liberated alien worlds watched in disbelief. Humans had fought not just with weapons but with intellect, courage, and unyielding determination. They had turned an impossible battle into victory. Entire fleets had been shattered, enemy strategies undone, and hope restored. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Torres took a deep breath. Her crew, though exhausted, remained vigilant. "Victory is never free," she said softly. "But today we gave the galaxy a chance. We showed that even the strongest, most merciless enemy can fall to those who refuse to quit." The aliens whispered among themselves, still trying to process what they had witnessed. Humans were not gentle protectors, nor were they angels. They had answered the prayers of the weak, yes, but they had done so with a ferocity and brilliance that no other species could match. They were demons in action, saviors in intent. And yet, even in the aftermath of this decisive strike, Torres knew the fight was far from over. The Vakari would regroup, learn from their mistakes, and strike again. Humanity had to remain vigilant. Every planet saved, every fleet destroyed. Every life protected came at a cost, and they would pay that cost willingly, because that was what humans did. They prayed for angels, Torres whispered to herself as the fleet regrouped. "We came as demons, and still, the galaxy breathes because of us." Her reflection in the bridge window seemed almost like fire against the blackness of space. She knew the story of humanity would spread across the stars, of a species that came when angels were needed, fought like demons, and left a mark that the universe would never forget. The Indomitable led the fleet toward the next Vakari system, engines blazing, weapons ready, and resolve unbroken. Humanity had turned the tide, but the war was not over, and the galaxy would soon learn that when humans fought, survival was guaranteed, but mercy was optional. The Vakari fleets were scattered, their homeworld battered, and their forces in retreat. Across the liberated colonies, silence returned, but it was uneasy. The people who had survived the human assault looked at the sky, watching as the black ships of the Terran coalition drifted between the stars. They were alive, yes, but the cost of their salvation was visible in every ruined city, every shattered structure, and every scar left on the land. Captain Torres walked along the surface of a recently liberated colony. The ground was scorched, buildings reduced to rubble, and the air thick with smoke. Children peeked out from shelters, their eyes wide with fear and awe. To them, humans were both saviors and monsters. They had destroyed much to save a little, but the little that survived was now safe. That was humanity's way, unforgiving, relentless, and strangely protective. One alien elder approached Torres, voice trembling. "Your people. They destroyed so much. You saved us, yes, but how can we ever trust you not to destroy us too?" Torres looked at the elder calmly. "Trust is not given, it is earned. But understand this, everything we destroyed was necessary. Every strike, every maneuver, every life-risking decision was made to ensure your survival. We do not act out of malice. We act out of necessity. Humans fight so others can live." The alien looked uncertain, but there was a flicker of understanding in their eyes. "They had expected angels. They had received demons, and yet somehow they were alive. That was enough for now. Across the colonies, the humans worked tirelessly. Engineers repaired vital structures. Medics treated the wounded, and soldiers secured the borders to prevent the Vakari from returning. Every action was calculated, every decision precise. Humanity did not waste effort or life. Every movement was aimed at survival and protection. Yet the aliens could not shake the fear that lingered in their hearts. Humans were saviors, yes, but their mercy came wrapped in fire. They fought with a brilliance that bordered on terrifying. Entire enemy fleets had been destroyed in ways the aliens could not comprehend. and the humans had done so without hesitation, without remorse. On one small planet, a young alien child asked a human medic, "Why do you fight like that? Why are you so relentless?" The medic smiled faintly, exhaustion etched into their features. "Because we have to. Because if we hesitate, if we doubt, if we stop, then everyone we protect dies. Humans survive by acting, by moving forward, and by never giving up. That is what makes us strong." The Vokari had learned this the hard way. Their attacks, clever and deadly, had been countered at every turn. Humans adapted, anticipated, and struck back with devastating efficiency. Entire strategies, once thought unassailable, crumbled before human ingenuity. The aliens realized that survival for humans was not just instinct. It was art, science, and strategy combined. Yet even in victory, the cost weighed heavily on the humans. Ships had been lost, lives had been risked, and the moral burden of their actions pressed on every soul aboard the fleet. Captain Torres felt it deeply as she surveyed the aftermath. Every city saved was a city scarred. Every life protected came at a cost of destruction somewhere else. That was the paradox of humanity's way. Brutal, yes, but necessary. In the council halls of the liberated worlds, alien leaders debated humanity's methods. Some praised their brilliance, others condemned their ruthlessness. Few could reconcile the two. The truth was undeniable. Humans had saved them, and they had done it on their own terms. The galaxy had been given a lesson in survival that no other species could teach. Torres returned to the Indomitable, looking out at the stars that stretched endlessly beyond the bridge. She thought of every life saved, every city destroyed, every enemy defeated. Humanity's way was not soft. It was not comforting. It was relentless, demanding, and unforgiving. And yet it worked. That was the lesson the galaxy needed to understand. "They prayed for angels," she whispered to herself. "We came and we became demons. But the galaxy breathes because of it. That is enough." The alien survivors whispered among themselves, recounting tales of human saviors who fought like monsters but protected like gods. Children told stories of ships that moved faster than light, of warriors who struck like shadows, and of humans who never hesitated, never doubted, and never faltered. Humanity's legend was growing, not as a tale of mercy, but as a tale of survival, cunning, and terrifying brilliance. As the fleet prepared to move to the next system, ready for whatever threats might appear, Captain Torres gathered her crew. "We have done well," she said, "but our job is not over. The Vokari will regroup, other threats will rise, and the galaxy will always test us. Remember this: humans survive, we endure, and we protect those who cannot protect themselves, even if it means we become demons in the eyes of the weak." Her crew nodded, understanding the weight of their duty. Humanity had answered the prayers of the galaxy's weak, but they had done so on their own terms, brutal, clever, and unstoppable. And as the stars stretched before them, dark and infinite, the humans of the Terran Coalition moved forward. They carried with them the lessons of war, the fires of survival, and the unyielding truth that when humanity fights, nothing, not even the most cunning enemy, can stand in its way. The war had ended, but its echoes lingered across the stars. The Vokari fleets were broken, their homeworld scarred, and their people humiliated. The liberated colonies began to rebuild, yet the shadow of humanity's arrival hung heavy over them. The humans had saved the galaxy, yes, but the memory of how they did it was unforgettable. They had fought like demons, striking with fury, cunning, and unyielding will. Captain Torres stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, looking at the countless systems that had been saved. Stars stretched endlessly before her, but her mind was full of the faces of those she had protected. The children who had peeked from shelters, the elders who had trembled at her presence, the soldiers who had fought beside her. Humanity had not acted out of vengeance nor for glory. They had acted because they must survive, and they had ensured the survival of others in the process. The alien leaders approached her from one of the liberated planets. Their faces reflected awe, fear, and deep respect. "Your people," said one governor slowly, "we prayed for angels, but what came was something far beyond our imagination. You saved us, yet we fear you. You are monsters who bring salvation." Torres nodded, understanding the weight of her actions. "We are not angels," she said quietly. "We are humans. We do not fight for mercy. We fight for survival, and we fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. That is our way. That is who we are." The governor bowed, a gesture of respect mixed with humility. "Then we are in your debt. though it is not a debt we can fully comprehend. In the weeks that followed, humanity helped the aliens rebuild what had been destroyed. Engineers restored cities, medics healed the wounded, and soldiers trained local defenses. Every action, every effort was precise and effective, reflecting the same relentless determination that had carried them through the war. Yet even in rebuilding, the aliens could not shake the awe and fear inspired by humans. They were saviors, yes, but saviors who fought with the intensity of a hurricane, who could destroy as easily as they could protect. On one small world, a young alien child clutched a human soldier's hand. "Will you stay with us?" the child asked, eyes wide with hope and fear. The soldier smiled faintly. "We cannot stay, but we will always be watching, and if you are ever in danger, we will return. Humans never abandon those who cannot defend themselves." The child nodded, understanding in a way beyond words. Humans were not angels. They were something more powerful, more terrifying, and more extraordinary. They were demons who protected life. Across the liberated colonies, the story of humanity spread quickly. Children whispered of ships black as night that moved faster than thought, of soldiers who struck with deadly intelligence, and of leaders who faced monsters without fear. Historians and scholars debated the humans' methods, but all agreed on one truth. When humans arrived, the galaxy survived. And survival came at the price of witnessing something beyond comprehension. Back aboard the Indomitable, Captain Torres reflected on everything. She thought of the boy who had asked why humans destroyed his city, of every enemy they had faced, of every life saved. The weight of their actions was immense, but it was necessary. Humanity's path had never been easy, but it had always been effective. They prayed for angels. Torres whispered into the void of space, her voice carrying across the silent bridge. "We came as demons. And still the galaxy breathes." Her words carried more than meaning. They were a warning, a promise, and a legacy. Humanity had arrived at the galaxy's darkest hour and turned fear into hope, terror into salvation, and chaos into survival. They were not divine. They were not merciful, but they were unstoppable. Generations later, stories of humanity reached the farthest corners of the stars. Aliens recounted the battles with a mixture of admiration and fear. Military academies studied human tactics. Children told tales of the black ships that appeared like shadows in the sky, of warriors who struck with unmatched skill and courage, and of leaders who never hesitated, never faltered, and never gave up. Humanity's legend had been written across the cosmos, not as angels but as demons who saved the galaxy. Captain Torres stood one last time on the bridge, looking out at the stars. She thought of the countless lives humanity had protected, the civilizations that now thrived, and the enemies who had learned the hard lesson of human ingenuity and ferocity. Humanity's way was harsh, yes, but it was necessary. It was survival, brilliance, and courage forged into one unstoppable force. "They will remember us," she murmured softly, "not as angels, not as heroes, but as humans, and that is enough." The Indomitable and its fleet drifted silently through the void, leaving behind liberated worlds, shattered enemies, and a galaxy that would never forget the demons of Earth who had answered the cries for help. Humanity had come when angels were needed, fought like demons, and left a legacy that would echo across the stars for all time. And somewhere, in the endless blackness of space, the galaxy understood the truth of humanity. They did not pray, they did not hesitate, they did not falter. They answered always.